Last video we cleared this with a 2K clear, the clear that's got a hardener in there to give us a good durable shiny finish. It's not perfect, but there is clear on there, so there's enough that I can sand this down, get it good and smooth and flat, and polish it out. And today I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, this finish looks good enough to, it's not, we'll say it's not, there's not enough texture on there to really have to work hard at getting it flat. So normally I would probably start with an 800 grit sandpaper to get it down to a certain point and then smooth it out with this 2000. I think we can just start with the 2000. You definitely want to use like a sanding block to keep your sandpaper flat. I have this little finger one, you know, I got this with little Velcro strips of sandpaper. It's supposed to be for wet or dry. If I put the sandpaper on here and dip it in water, it just kind of wants to fall apart. But it's still a good little block. So what I usually do is I take the sandpaper and I'll cut it in thirds, and I'm able to wrap it around and hold on to it. It's small. We got a pretty small tank, so it's not going to take long using this little thing. And I find that I can get against you know, all the nooks and crannies that are around these little bungs here. I think it's going to be a lot easier with something small, and it's not going to take that long. So this is the way I'm going to do it. If I need a bigger block for the larger areas, I'll use it, but I doubt I'm going to use it. This ain't got to be perfect. Just kind of cut it about in thirds. Then I can take this and kind of wrap it around. And I've got enough material here to do a lot. Got a big old bucket of water down here. So you definitely want to, I'm just going to go ahead and wet this by hand. Get some water on there. So I'm going to start kind of around this filler neck. And we're just going to sand everything till it's pretty flat. I will say that I can feel a difference between this and the paint that I put on there. The paint is soft, and even when it's cured, it's pretty easy to sand. This definitely resists sanding more, but it is working. One thing you want to be careful about is around any kind of edge, like a sharp edge or a curve, or the ends of let's say the bottom of the tank. If you get close to the edge of the clear, you know, there's not a lot of surface area, and you can sand the clear right off pretty easy. So really, if it looks decent in those areas, kind of work around it and leave those alone. I'm going to try to get as close as I can and just be easy with it. Don't push hard. Just let the sandpaper do the work. A lot of people say to use soapy water, just a little bit of soap in the water. I can't say I've ever done that. My guess is they do that to kind of lubricate. Really, that's kind of what the water is doing. It's lubricating and flushing out the sandpaper so it doesn't pack full of your material. Part of what I was talking about staying away from the edges, the hard edges and corners and stuff like that. I feel like, you know, I want to get as close as I can. That's why I got this small block, because it's just a lot easier to work with. I can take my time with it, and you know, I can get right up in there, right near the edge, and not really sand on the edge, like where this is tigged around here. It's not real smooth, so any of those high spots, this can sand right through that clear, and I don't want to do that. It looks good enough really to polish it anyways there. You know, you're making a big difference by getting the broad, wide, big, large areas. you get those smooth and it's going to look great. Another good thing about this small block, I've got a whole pack of blocks here, all different shapes. I've got blocks that'll kind of work around these curves and just kind of have the same shape. Well, this one, like I said, just taking my time, and I can pretty much work a curve too, so it's not too wide. So I kind of prefer this. If I was doing something large, obviously, you know, I'd use a larger block, try to work more area at a time. Swipe everything down with a towel. This is microfiber, kind of big, but I want to wipe it down and kind of get a look at everything. Make sure we didn't go too far anywhere, and make sure we went far enough in places. Yeah, let's just roll it over. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but there's just a little bit of a few low spots here and there. I think we'll be okay with that. Well, now that we've ruined a good clear coat, we're gonna fix that. So we got a nice dull finish. There are a couple, well, there's a few low spots here and there. They're not that deep, so they're not going to show up that well in the end. You can see right around the neck there how it's still kind of shiny. So that's what I mean about getting close, but not against corners and, you know, edges. So next step, little rubbing compound applicator. I'm going to start kind of on the wide areas. It's probably a little much here, but we'll work it around. You just kind of want to rub it in just like you're sanding. So I'm going to go over the whole tank here. And then we'll wipe it down. Kind of running out of daylight. I'm going to finish up with a rubbing compound. Probably do the polishing tomorrow or another day. But what I'm looking for is shinier than the way it was after we sanded it. Alright, so I may have misled you a little bit, or this thing's making a liar out of me. We kind of put a little sheen on there in some places, not everywhere. It's not real consistent. And I think a lot of that has to do with just hand rubbing. There's some places, I guess, that it's easier to rub, so you tend to rub those areas more than others. My theory, the reason it's not working so well, kind of like what I'm used to with clear coat, this clear, since it's really hard and durable, I think what we're going to do, went out and got some buffing pads that kind of go in a drill. This is similar, like a headlight restoration buffing pad. This one has two. I haven't opened it yet. You got a purple and a black. Visually, the purple has a more coarse look. The black is a finer as far as the foam goes. I'm sure there's instruction in there that'll tell us. I'll stick that on, try to get it kind of center. So I'm going to put a little bit of this rubbing compound on the applicator, and we're just going to start all over. Based on the friction I'm getting, that feels like it's actually doing something. It is better than rubbing, I'll say that. I gotta tell you, at this very moment, I can't think of anything more annoying than a drill that's just running constantly. Alright, I've pretty much gone around this thing, and that didn't take long. forget everything I said about hand rubbing. I'll tell you what, man. That made a difference. That actually made a difference. Some people would say that's acceptable. We're still gonna use the polishing compound and then we're gonna wax it. But I'll tell you, that made a huge difference. So that is the way to go. I don't know how well you can see that, but let's polish it and see what happens. Take the purple off, put the black on, try to get it kind of center. Good enough. Poop it on there. Giving this thing a quick wipe down. Now that's kind of what I was looking for. So that is looking pretty dang good. Waxing is pretty easy. Of all the things we've done, this is probably the easiest part. You can't do it wrong. I don't think. Got a kind of damp applicator, a little bit of water. All you do is you rub it on, kind of buff it around, let it dry. It'll turn real hazy. You'll wipe it off, you're done. So let me pretty much buff some wax on here, and we'll come back when it's dry, wipe it off, see what it looks like, and if we're pretty satisfied with it, and I'm sure we will be, we start working on getting the fittings in this thing and the petcock. And I don't recall if I've ever actually shown any of it on social media, but it's gonna have a pretty neat feature. The idea behind this, originally that feature would have gone well with a more ratty theme. Although there is kind of a distressed look to the whole paint scheme, it's not as ratty as we had planned originally. But I think it's still going to go well. So as soon as we're done with this, I'll show you what we have in mind. So we're going to let this sit here and dry. I'm pretty sure I got it everywhere, buffed in pretty well too. And then we'll wipe it down and we'll see the end product. We have waxed on and waxed off. I don't know how well you can see that. That's something we can take home to mama. It's pretty nice. You guys may have noticed these little bungs sitting here and gone, what the hell is that? I'm going to show you. You know, I'm not a huge fan of certain sealers, but I guess sometimes there's no way around it. I certainly don't like silicone. Everybody poops silicone on gaskets, and it's not what it's there for. You can use a little to hold a gasket, but you don't poop it all over a gasket. As far as fittings go, I honestly wasn't sure what to use for an application that you needed a seal against gasoline. There's not a lot of stuff out there. You can do all the research in the world and not find anything, like pretty much what I did. Found this seal-all. It's supposed to resist gasoline, and I'm not putting a whole lot on these fittings, but just a little bit. The good thing is it's clear. You wouldn't want to use Teflon tape or any kind of thread sealer on something like this because of the gasoline, obviously, but now obviously I've test fitted this before, and hose barbs, it can be kind of difficult to get a hose off of a barb fitting. So I left it on one fitting and figured I would push it on the other. Fuel gauge. Pretty neat. Dab will do you. Maybe a little much on there. I'm not sure the angle I want with that yet, but petcock. Neat, huh? Well, obviously I'm gonna mock it up for you guys. We're gonna change the exhaust here soon. We're still trying to iron out exactly what we want. The seat, I had trouble. Now excuse all the shit hanging off of the front end of it. The seat, I had trouble trying to figure out what color would go well. I'm still not sure about this, but I went with a dark gray. It's called black stainless steel, I believe. There's still a lot to do. Well, actually there's not a whole lot to do.